Okay. All right. I want to first explain the tools this morning. The plus sign that you see on the chart is the ATR stop that I talk about all the time. That is built into my trend indicator, which has several different algorithms in it. For example, you see that you have gray bars here. That tells me I am close enough to the ATR to take a trade. Typically, we use a 5-tick rule for a 3-minute chart. In other words, price has to be within 5 ticks to take a trade. But that would present issues when we were looking at a 12-minute or a 45-minute or a 180. What is close enough? I developed an algorithm that would identify what is close enough, and it will turn the bars gray if price gets close enough to the ATR. You also see that we have magenta bars. The magenta bars are actually wide bars, and wide bars typically will retrace about 80% of the time. So you need to know if you're going into the market and it forms a wide bar, you're better off taking your profits so that you can lock them in before the retracement occurs. Okay? We also have these little magenta dots, and they actually identify which bars are actual reversal bars. So for example, here is a reversal bar. It began here, and then this closed below the low, and that made it a reversal bar. Okay? Directly beneath that, we have the THD ADX. Now, the ADX, excuse me, my dog was playing with a toy and it was distracting me. Okay, the ADX measures the trend strength. Okay, anytime we have magenta histogram bars, that tells us we are in a strong trend. Anytime we have a magenta peak, which is typically the first dot in NinjaTrader, will be pink. The subsequent dots will be yellow if it's within the same trend, and that tells us that price should retrace back to the ATR. Again, that is the plus sign that in this case is above price. Anytime the histogram bars are a dark color, that means one of two things. Either the market is not trending or the ADX line is decreasing. Okay? If we go down to the 45-minute chart, you see that I have the directional volume indicator in the middle of the screen there. Now, the directional volume indicator actually predicts price action. Not predicts, but it shows us price action, and also shows us the buyers and sellers within the bar, as well as the delta, which is market orders. So for example, on this bar, I know that price made a low when compared to the previous bar because it is red. A blue volume bar tells me that price has made a high when compared to the previous bar. The gray volume bar tells me it was a neutral bar in that both the high and the low was contained within the high and the low of the previous bar. A magenta bar tells me that the price bar exceeded both the high and the low of the previous bar. Decreasing volume on highs tells us we have divergence. Decreasing volume on the lows tell us that we have diverging volume on the lows. I look for the volume as it is retracing back to either the ATR or the congestion dots. The congestion dots are right here. They are gray, and that occurs when we have a flip of the ATR, meaning it went from red to blue or blue to red, but it was not with what I call conviction. In other words, They didn't come in strong enough to continue taking price up, so we plot this gray dot, and that tells us that we have congestion. Anytime that we have congestion, if price is at the congestion dot, then we would expect it to go back down to the ATR. If price is at the ATR, then we would expect it to come back up to the congestion dot and test the congestion dot. Any questions on the indicators that I have explained so far? Okay, let's move over to the Market Analyzer windows. The Market Analyzer windows, we have a couple of different ones. We have a 3-minute here, a 1-minute here, and then we have a 12 and a 45 combined over here. On the 3 and the 1, we have the trend indicator, and the first column that you see is the previous bar trend. The second column is the current bar trend. The third column is ticks to the ATR. Remember I said I enter all of my trades at the ATR? This tells me that the Aussie yen is 5 ticks away from the ATR. The USD Swiss franc is 13 ticks away. Gold is 10 ticks. So this way I can monitor how close I am to an ATR on any time frame that I want. I would just apply this to, a 12-minute, a 45-minute, a 60-minute, whatever time frame I'm trading. The next column tells us whether we are in congestion. Again, if you see gray dots and an ATR below, that tells you you are in congestion because the gray dots are being plotted. So if I wanted to trade a congestion range, then I would look under the congestion column and pick out any market that is in congestion. The next column warns us if we have a wide bar. A few minutes ago when they came out with this historical decision, we had a lot of wide bars popping up because it was historical and it did cause major market movement. The next column is a potential entry indicator. Anything that is either at the ATR or at a congestion dot, and it has to be in a congestion range for this to pick it up, will show up as a potential entry. So I know that right now the Russell is at a potential entry area, and I would go and look at the 3-minute chart. Okay? The next market analyzer that we have is the ADX Magenta Peak market analyzer. And what this does is allows me to actually look and see what time frames have magenta peaks. In this room, I am monitoring the 12 and the 45. I also have these set up for the 180, the 720, and the 1440 because anytime we have a magenta peak, we expect a retracement back to the ATR, which is the plus sign, on that time frame. So for example, on the Euro Japanese yen, we have a peak. Now I know this is not a magenta peak because this is not pink. Whereas on the USD Swiss franc, it is magenta in color. It has the words peak. So I know to expect a retracement back to the ATR on the USD Swiss franc. Do I enter based on that alone? No. We have very specific criteria that will tell us to go and look at that time frame, zero down in time to make sure the retracement is happening, and then we take an entry. Does everybody understand that so far? Okay, let's go ahead and look at the USD Swiss franc since that has a peak on it, and I'm going to explain to you why we look at it. Number one, we need to look at the 45-minute because that's where the peak is. What color is this line? This line is red. That means that this is going to be a retracement upwards, okay? Unfortunately, it's already occurred. Is this recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, and I will post it up on the blog later today, Robert. Now, in this case, this retracement has already retraced back to the ATR, okay? So I cannot expect that trade. Does everybody understand that? It's already happened. What could I do? Well, I could wait, let this pull back to the ATR, make sure that the sellers are declining. That would be my entry point because I would be right at the ATR. That is your lowest point of risk on any trade. Let's go and look at, well, really that's all, because here you see that it is not magenta. The NASDAQ is not magenta. The Aussie dollar is not magenta. I do not need to look at those two. Actually, three. Well, thank you, George. So does everybody understand the market analyzer for the peaks? Again, I'm doing this on a 12 and a 45-minute because I'm doing the binary options, but we can do it on dailies. We can do it on weeklies. We can do it on monthlies. We can do it on 60 minutes, 120, 360. Whatever time frame you want to come up with, you can do it. Okay? Now, in TradeStation and in multi-charts, this is all within one window because TradeStation and multi-charts allows you to monitor the different time frames and different symbols within one window. It's either called the radar screen or the market analyzer. Okay? In NinjaTrader, we do it using the market analyzer and we have to separate the windows. Okay? Now, the next thing I want to explain is the meter window. Now, the silver and platinum package comes with a lot of indicators that you may never see on my chart. One of those indicators is the RSI indicator. The reason is I do not like having the RSI on my chart. Instead, I prefer to have it in the meter window. Why? Because I can monitor all of these markets with RSI values within one window. I can also see which currencies are strong versus which currencies are weak. A great example is, for example, the dollar, which is the green dashed line, was weak yesterday. Most of you remember me talking about that in the room, that it looked like it was getting weak. Okay, it was going down, the yen was going up. That told me I would be shorting the US dollar because the Japanese yen was strong. Okay? This morning, you can see that the dollar has turned upwards and the euro is actually coming down. So that tells me the euro is weak, the dollar is gaining strength. What other currencies are weak right now? The USD Swiss franc is losing, not the USD, I'm sorry. The Swiss franc is losing strength because it is starting to come down. Okay? The dollar is going up. The dollar is the first in the spot Forex pair. That means that you would be going long on the US dollar because the Swiss franc is weak. Stuart, did I send you the template yesterday? If I did, you have to save that into the templates directory in NinjaTrader? Yes, this is the one I sent you, Stuart. You have to save it into your templates directory in NinjaTrader. It has to be saved for the chart analyzer. Then you have to set up a chart with the 6A and apply the template. I have a video that shows you how to do it on both the blog and the forum, okay? Just look for NinjaTrader videos and it walks you through how to set up the meter window, okay? Now, I also have one for other futures. For example, the NASDAQ, the Dow, the ES, the Russell, gold, crude, the dollar, and the DAX, okay? So I know where all of these are going at a glance. And I can also tell you which one is not moving in correlation with the other indices. We all know that typically the indices move together, but every once in a while you'll get like the Dow moves in one direction. That tells me I probably don't want to trade the Dow. The NASDAQ may move in the opposite direction. Don't trade the NASDAQ when that happens. That is not typical behavior. I know that. So if the indices are all moving together, I can take my pick. But if you have 4 indices moving in one direction and one indice that's doing its own thing, I'm going to leave that indice alone. Does everybody understand that? So it's just a way to monitor this all at one time instead of, you know, over here on the currencies, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 currencies, okay? And in between those 8 currencies, you have different combinations like euro yen, euro dollar. So instead of having 16 markets with 6 different time frames, I have everything in one window. And I could do this on, again, a 45-minute or a 60-minute or a daily or a weekly, just depending on how long I want it to be in the market, okay? That's really what it comes down to. How long are you going to be in the market? And then you select the highest time frame that you want to watch for that time period that you want to be in. Does everyone understand that? Okay, let me go and open up this window, and I'm going to change this over to, let's say, the NASDAQ. And I'm going to show you some of the other tools that maybe you never see on my chart that are included in the packages. The one that you may be wondering about is the Trend SR. And this is a really, really good tool if you do not know price action. Okay? Do you see how we have this line of red dots up here? That tells me that there is resistance in that area. In other words, it was making highs, 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 and then it stopped. And it has not been able to break this area. So that's sort of like the live edge of the market telling you, hey, they have resistance up here, okay? Now, anytime that we have a high and it's on divergence, we expect it to come back and test for sellers. In other words, we want price to find an area of support that will push price up again. Does everybody understand that? Okay, look at the blue dots that are on the lows. This is telling you that it has formed an area of support for price to go up in this area. Okay, so this, which is close to the ATR, is where you're going to be wanting to read the volume. Does everybody understand that? And this is simply based on the fact that price works off of support and resistance. Okay? So anytime you make a high and it forms an area of resistance, it will come back and it will test for an area of support. This is price action. Okay? I can see this without the dots. I've been doing this for going on 15 years. I don't need the dots. A lot of my traders do need the dots. Okay? So we have included them in the packages, so if you need them, you can put them on your chart. Any questions on the trend SR? Yes, it's the same name in TradeStation. It's Trend SR, which actually stands for Trend Support and Resistance. Okay? Now the next one I want to go through is the moving average. Okay? I do not really like moving averages on my chart. Some people do. Okay? It teaches them a lot about the 200 period moving average. So this is a moving average, and it's actually a 50 period moving average, which is what we use for intraday trading. Okay? So you can see that this came down, tested, actually found support, went back up, and then broke through. Believe it or not, that's typically what price does. So people like to trade moving averages. I don't. My customers asked me for it. I gave it to them. Okay? If you want to see the moving averages, this is a very, very fast moving average that will follow price. It is a 20 period moving average, but a very, very fast one. And then we have the 50 period moving average on there as well. We also have a trend moving average, so that if you have trouble with lines, and believe me, I have trouble with lines like this on my chart, then it just simply colors the price bars according to what the moving average is doing. Everybody understand that? We do have trades that are based on this moving average, so we know exactly what to expect when we have the moving average on our chart. Okay? Now, the other one that you will receive is the clipper. And that is how we take our profits. And I'm going to click OK. So for example, let's say that we entered as this approached the ATR here. We can put the clipper on our chart. Let me get it set up right. Oop, wrong one. So all I have to do is click on my entry bar, and you can see that it plots Clipper 1, Clipper 2, and Clipper 3 based on your stop. In this case, it used a one-tick stop, and I can go in there and change that and say auto override. I want my first clipper at 16 ticks of profit, my second clipper level at 32, the third clipper level at 48, and my stop is going to be 8 ticks. And that's typically what I use on a 3-minute on the futures. Now you can see you have the stop here in yellow. Let me change that real quick. We normally use a black background, so we use yellow. That's the only reason. We'll put it in dark magenta. So now you can see what your profit targets are using a risk to reward of 1 to 2. If you entered at 37, 40, 25, your first profit target is 37, 45, 25. 37, 48, 25 is your second profit target, and your last profit target would be 37, 52, 25. If you take profits at Clipper 1, that's a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. Clipper 2 would be a 1 to 4, no, 1 to 3, I'm sorry. Clipper 3 would be 1 to 4, okay? I do not use this a lot because I use either volume to exit my trade or I'm trading the binaries. It does not apply to binaries. Does everybody understand that? If I do shift and click again, it just takes it right off the chart and I'm ready for the next trade. You can also set up an OSO order that does the same thing, which is order sends order. It's however you prefer to do it as a trader. Any questions on that so far, guys? Which of the tools do you use? It depends on where you're at in your trading career. And that's really about as honest as I can get. I always am looking at the meter. I'm always reading volume and the ATR and the ADX. Those are my core indicators. If I'm trading one market, I don't need this meter over here because I'm only trading one market. I would have the RSI on my chart. Consider a clipper for scaling into a trade. Yeah, you could, Larry. You could also use, for example, let's say, and this is just an example, let me go to the NASDAQ. I don't want to do it on a 45-minute. Let's say that your trading plan said you would enter one contract here, okay? You could also add another one when this pulled back to the ATR, did not break it. You could have entered another one. You could have entered another one here. It's however you want to do it, really. You would do it after volume divergence. On the selling side, Larry, you would enter and add more contracts that way. Do you understand, Larry? Now, I wouldn't do that on an intraday basis. That would be more likely when I'm doing longer term trading. Why? Because longer term trading is easier to do. Okay? And I don't believe in doing it on an intraday basis. Just because intraday, typically what you are doing is entering and taking small profits throughout the day. Does everybody understand that? Whereas if I'm long-term trading, I want the full benefit of that trend. No, that is not the currency meter, Stuart. Send me an email, Stuart. Okay, what setups did I have using the 45 and the 3-minute chart? Most of the time, if you go to the blog, I'm going to post an intraday trading tips for that particular day. This one was for yesterday. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to go back and read what I think the NASDAQ should have done yesterday. We have a 1440-minute chart with a flat ADX peak. That typically means that the high will be retested before the retracement comes in. This is very similar to what happened on the 720-minute chart. The ATR on the 720 is at 3707.5. But if you notice, the 180 has held price up at the congestion dot. The 45-minute managed to flip the ATR, then tested the congestion dot on diverging selling volume. And it is now going back to test the ATR at 3730.5. This is a chart to watch today. That was written at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I know yesterday the 45-minute was the chart to watch. So I'm going to make a mark on my chart for yesterday, and that was, I think about here, was the opening. Nope, I was wrong. This was the opening bar here. So they went back and they tested this ATR. What did they do? Buyers came in, but that is a wide bar. What happens on wide bars? I just told you a few minutes ago, wide bars retrace about 80% of the time. Wait a minute, I've got to get this on the right day. Huh? I thought I was at the end of the chart. Okay, now we have it. All right, so they came back and they were testing this ATR when I read it. Then they broke through. They were at the congestion dot. I expected them to come back up towards the ATR to test that ATR. Did they do that? No. And this is where I've got to line it up, so give me a second. Okay, this was 9:45 yesterday morning. So initially, when the market opened, they came down, they broke this congestion dot. What happened? They took it straight back up. If I'm not mistaken, we had a 10 o'clock market report yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So they took it up. It was on increasing volume. They flipped the ATR, which was anticipated. So the only opportunity you would have had was a long position. Do you understand that? The ATR is below price. You can only go long. Now, what's the next requirement? It has to be at an ATR. Here's your magenta peak. It comes back to the ATR. This is 37.28. The ATR is 37.26. You do not have gray bars. You cannot enter that market. Any questions on that? It has to retrace to within 5 ticks of the ATR. The gray bar tells you I'm close enough to take a trade because I'm close enough to that ATR. Do you understand that, Humphrey? Gray is not saying it's ready to flip. Gray is saying that you are close enough to an ATR to take a trade. Then you have to have diverging volume. Can you anticipate the opening based on the last bar of the day? I only trade 24-hour markets, Larry, so no. But can you from the higher time frames? Typically, yes, you can. If price is within 5 ticks of the ATR, you can go in, but you cannot risk more than 10 ticks. On a 3-minute chart, you cannot do it. Right. With binaries, you do not have to worry about that issue. Okay, so now price goes up again. We get a magenta peak. It has to come back to within 5 ticks of the ATR. This is at 37.35. This is 37.33. You do not have an entry. TD Ameritrade does not offer binaries. Not within the U.S. anyway. Now, this is, and I wrote a post today about why I love binaries. You cannot enter these trades on the NASDAQ, and there is a reason why you cannot. If you enter these trades and you're risking more than 10 ticks, which is the average stop that you need to use on the NASDAQ, okay? If you're entering and you're an inexperienced trader and you say, oh, I don't care, I'm going to enter it anyway. Over time, you will lose more than what you make. Do you understand that? And new traders are going to want to do it, guaranteed. And this is what creates an issue for new traders. You do not have the experience to do it. I do not recommend traders going down to a 1 minute unless they have been trading for a long time and they're already very successful in their trading. You can do it on a binary because you're not going to have the whipsaw effect on a binary that you have on futures. This is why it takes a lot of patience and a lot of discipline to get your trade on the futures. If you're risking 20 ticks and that market typically only moves 80 ticks, you're asking for trouble, because you're not going to be able to get a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio, which you desperately need on the futures market. Does everybody understand that? Or do I need to show you what you will do to your account if you do that? It's called having an inverse risk to reward ratio. It's not sensible trade, Humphrey. It's trading rules, and you have to learn to abide by trading rules. All right, let's get my Excel spreadsheet open. It is really the most important thing that you can do, Pam, I think. All right. I'm going to enable the content. All right. Now, somebody give me what a winning percentage is for them on the futures. Just give me a number. I don't care what number. I don't want you to think I planned this. Okay, you're going to take 60%. How many of that is going to be at, are you exiting everything in one trade, Humphrey? What's your risk to reward ratio? All right, you're going to do 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio. What's your maximum risk? And you want 60. Yeah, we're going to do 0. What's your break-even trades? Okay, maximum risk is 12 ticks. What's your break-even percentage? If winning is 60, what's break-even? Got to give me a number. Well, at 60% winners, 20% break-even, you set your goals real high. You can't have 30 because then that would only give you 10% losers. That's not realistic at all. How many ticks of slippage? All right, 3 ticks. All right, we're going to do 10,000. Well, I'm going to limit this to 700 because usually 700 is enough to actually give you a pretty reasonable expectation. You would make money if you abided by that. All right, Pam, you wanted 65 for winning trades? Are you taking everything off at Clipper 1, Pam? And what's your risk to reward ratio? 2-to-1, is that risk to reward or reward to risk? All right, that's what I thought it was. And what's your break even, Pam? Are you allocating anything for break even trade? 8, okay. What's your maximum risk? 6 ticks. All right. That would be your hypothetical equity graph. I've got to say hypothetical because this is random trades. Now remember, this is using 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio. New traders cannot achieve that type of rate. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to show you what typical new traders are going to do. They're going to do 50% at best. They're going to have maybe 10% at break even. We'll use the standard 10 ticks, which I always do. We're going to go down to a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio because they don't understand how important it is to use a 1 to 2. And let's see. Commission round trip would be 5. That's about right. And that's what you end up with. And that means that you're $20,000 underwater after 700 trades. Just that simple little difference. They would be gone at 5,000, you're right. Then they add another 5,000. Then they add another 5,000. Now, you could say, I believe it's 54%. No. Let's go up to 60%. Nope. 70%. Nope. 80%. 80% accuracy using 1-to-1, they would be profitable. Yeah, then they call me. And I'll tell you right now, a new trader is not going to have an 80% on a consistent basis. And even then, at 80%, okay, your average profit or loss per trade is $20 basically. You took 700 trades and your average profit was $20. And if you want to go an inverse, and I've seen traders that use the inverse, okay? So in this case, the risk to reward is 1-to-1. Let's go 0.5. Even at 80%, you are never profitable. Now, do you understand why I tell you not to do it on the futures? And with Forex, if you're actually trading spot Forex, you even need more than 1-to-2 actually. Because instead, and let me explain this to you, this is why normally I would only trade spot Forex long term. Your commission round trip is normally, let's take the US dollar because it varies per currency. US dollar, it's $20 a round trip. Let's take this back to 1-to-2 and let's go back to our 50%, okay? That is using the 4X combination. Do y'all understand that? So using the 4X combination, and let's take this to 55%. 55%, you're starting to make money, but you have to withstand this drawdown, which gets to about $3,000. And that can occur anywhere, okay? It can occur at the top. It can, like in this one, it did it in the middle. But sometimes it's, when you first start trading, it's $3,000 right off the top. You'll go through your drawdown before you go through your winning streak. That's typical. So do y'all understand that? And do you understand why I recommend so much that you use the risk to reward ratio on the futures? Now with the binaries, this all changes. Because on the binaries, you're trading more probability than you are risk to reward. Now, most of you know we have been through this, it's almost like the summer doldrums came in March of this year. Is the best way for me to explain it. And it's almost impossible to trade the futures or the Forex market when you're in a sideways market movement, because you have to make sure you have enough room to take profits in this sideways market movement. And I'll go back and show you an example of that. Let's see, let me find something. All right, here on the 180, okay? Let's identify where this congestion area is. The top of it is at 37.50. The bottom is at 37.14. So basically on the NASDAQ, you've got basically about a 30-point range, okay? So feasibly, could you trade that? Yes, on a smaller time frame, you could go in and feasibly scalp during that area. If you're good, you can do it. Probably even if you're halfway good, if you follow the rules that I set out, okay? If you try to trend trade this congestion area, and I've got the best congestion identifier of anything that's on the market, I'll tell you that right up front. It's not being conceited, it's just stating fact. This outlines it for you. But let's say that you're not using it, you can't identify really whether this is in congestion because you're down here just using a little 3 and a 45-minute chart. You don't believe in looking at all these time frames. This is where you're going to get chopped up. And the smaller that gets, the more chop you're going to have. You can always tell it after the fact. You cannot normally tell it on the live edge of the market. Does everybody understand that? If you've ever been through a whipsaw, you do. There are a lot of companies that do the binaries, Humphrey. I'm very cautious with them. I did check out a lot of binaries, and Nadex is the only one that I would recommend for anybody within the U.S. Anybody. I do know that they're going to try to add, the ability to let other people come into the markets from different countries. They do not have that option right now. No, they do not allow people outside of the U.S. at the moment. They may in the future. That is a possibility. I have not checked all of them. What you want to look for is a binary option group that offers the ability to exit at multiple times throughout the day, not the 5-minute and the 10-minute binaries. You don't want the ones, and I'll tell you right now, Some of the binary companies, they'll tell you, okay, they will match your deposit. They will double your deposit. Okay, so if you put 2,000 in a binary, they're going to give you 4,000. Very lucrative. They don't charge commissions. So I'm going to ask you one logical question. How are they making their money? They're not charging a commission. They charge no fees whatsoever, and they're going to double your deposit. How do they make profits? I'm not going to tell you. You need to figure this out. They keep the money. That's right. Well, most of them are going against your trade like they used to do in Forex. There's still a lot of companies that do that. It's called a dealing desk. You never get your money back on those deals. Never, ever, ever. Yes, some people do call them bucket shops. In fact, that's how I actually started looking into binaries, because I had clients that were coming to me saying, do you know any reputable binary broker? I said, no, but I'll start checking them out. And I did start checking them out. I mean, I just figured all of them were the bucket shops until I stumbled on Nadex, and I stumbled on them by accident, actually. And I've been very, very impressed with them. And they offer you so many potentials, so many. You can check them out. I don't really know. I used to have an account with them. Didn't too much like them, so I moved it over to FXCM. But now I'm just doing really binaries. There are so many possibilities with the binaries. We'll be going through that in the Kickstarter trading webinar that starts not next Monday, but the following Monday. Most of the material that we are going to be covering will show you the difference between the binaries and the futures. And, you know, the opportunities that are available via binaries versus the futures. If they had had binaries 15 years ago when I started trading, it would have saved me a huge amount of money. The last day for the discount, Pam, is actually tomorrow. And if anybody wants to buy the indicators with the webinar, you have to email me, because you get a 25% discount on the packages. And if you're an annual member, you get the webinar free. Because, well, I shouldn't say free. You paid for it because you paid for the annual membership. I don't know FX Empire. Annual membership is really what you want, because everything I do throughout the year is covered. It's my way, really, of trying to keep your costs down as a trader. Yes, I am right now. I still do some futures, Artemin. I'm getting to the point where they're fewer and fewer. You know, just with the commissions alone, you're saving a ton of money, actually. I mean, they charge $1.80 round trip. And what I love, I hate to use the word new trader, because a lot of people have been trading for 5 years and that, well, I'm experienced. Well, if you're not making money consistently, year in and year out, you're still in your new phase, okay? And I would suggest that you go over to the binaries. I can't stress that enough. You know, what is your criteria to trade futures now instead of Nadex? What do you mean, Dan? I'm not sure I follow what the question is. Well, if you're outside of the U.S., either you have to find a reputable binary broker or you have to trade the futures. You know, that's, I guess, the deciding factor. I do have a lot of traders that are outside the country. I don't like future options, and I'll tell you why. You can't trade them 24 hours a day. You can trade them from 9:30 to 4 o'clock unless you pay the 25,000. Well, I think there is a way to trade them overnight, but I think you either have to be a member of the floor or you have to be with a special broker and you have to have a minimum of 25,000. So, and I'll tell you, I mean, I have already been told by people that work on the floor that are option traders, they're option floor traders. They position themselves overnight. So you get late to the game, honey. By the time the market moves at 9:30, you are late, whether you know it or not. They have the advantage. I mean, I started this journey, okay, and it was a journey about 15 years ago. And I guarantee you my education for learning on the live edge of the market at least was 75,000, at least. I lost 17,000 in one day because I was new. And I just about guarantee you I would have trouble trading Nadex binaries and losing 17,000 in a day. Oh, I know I will. No, it was not on a news trade. It's same thing that probably every trader in this room has gone through at one point or another. Within the first hour of the market, I made $8,000. And I figured I knew what the hell I was doing. And the market told me I did not know. Every one of us have horror stories if you're honest. I don't know of a trader that didn't. I was in the Euro one time, and this cannot happen in Nadex, okay? It cannot happen, and I'm so glad it can't. But I was in a trade on the Euro, and I needed to go to the restroom, but I had my stop in, so I wasn't worried about it. And some announcement came out. It was totally unanticipated, okay? And I came back, and I was down $1,700, and I had a stop, but they had jumped my stop. And I thought I was safe because I had a stop. It will happen in the futures. It will not happen in Nadex. And I know I'm not the only one That has happened too. Oh yeah, it's like today, the G7 meetings. Everybody knows I won't trade those because they come out throughout the day and they will do it. Yeah, the Greenspan rate cut announcement outside of the FOMC. Yeah, I remember that one, Pam. Yeah, bomb going off in the London tube while you were long the British pound. Yeah. How much did that cost you, Dan? You know, with Nadex, if, you know, I want to go get me a cup of coffee, I can. If I need to go to the restroom, I can. I've already limited my risk. Yeah, $750. And you had a stop in. You were being a good trader. You had your stop in. And then they jumped it. And it will happen. Because we do not know what they're going to come out with 60 seconds from now. The one thing that I have learned with Nadex, you know how I've always said you put your trade on, you put your stops in, and then you pretty much have to say, okay, I can't control it from this point on. Okay? In Nadex, I still have control. Yeah, it happens. New traders, you know, they don't understand these things. It does happen. You know, how many of you have ever lost so much money that you couldn't put on another trade? Oh yeah, it's called paralysis. All right, would you suffer the same paralysis if you capped your loss at 50 bucks? I mean, 50 bucks, a steak at Ruth Chris's costs more than that. What does that mean in trading terminology? Oh yeah, you get margin calls. You don't get margin calls in Nadex. I never have to worry about picking up the phone and saying I've got a margin call. It does not happen. They don't let you trade if you don't have enough money to cover your loss. And, you know, gold, crude, those are not markets for new traders at all. Because I'll tell you right now, gold will jump over you in a heartbeat. So will crude. Crude and gold has the highest volatility of any of the other future markets. And you know, most of your, I call it head trauma, because you have all of this psychological mumbo jumbo going around in your head. You're a loser. You can't do this. You'll never get this. The list will go on and on and on and on. You don't have that with Nadex. You know, and I've got a couple of traders that have already transferred over to Nadex, and they've already emailed me and said, oh my God, you know, the head junk is disappearing. What does that mean for you as a trader? It means you can focus on your chart. You can focus on where you need to be instead of all of this going around and you, oh God, it's going to go against me. Oh God, I'm going to lose $300. Some of them are in sim mode. Some of them are in live accounts, Humphrey. The ones that are in live accounts, from what they have told me, they are doing well. I have not audited their records and don't plan to. I'm very cautious about saying, oh, you're going to make a ton of money over here, okay? And the reason that I am cautious is I don't want to promise you a pot of gold, because you have to make the pot of gold happen, not me, okay? Yeah, it is. I told Mika the other day, for me personally, it's like taking candy from a baby. Especially the slower markets. You know, a lot of times the Asian market, and Pam, this might be something that you're interested in too. Usually the slower market, which is Asia, is very, very hard to trade, because either you have movement or you don't have movement. Well, the binaries are perfect for markets that really aren't moving. And today, later today, on the blog, I'm going to post the markets that you should trade at the hours that are really good, because it changes according to which markets are open. You know, for example, the Japanese index, they do the Japanese index, but you only trade that during Asia, okay? One of them that might surprise you if you have traded a lot of Forex, the British pound yen is like major mover, okay? Um, but it's not open every hour on the hour expirations unless you're doing Asia. And I have the list of everybody, and you know, what all the markets and the best time to trade these markets, because what you're looking at, and this is, you know, again, this is something that we will go over in the Kickstart Your Trading webinar. But how many of you in the room trade normal options? You know, like the ETFs and the future options and stuff like that, which I found really boring. Anybody in here trade just normal options? Well, I had a problem. They bored me, but, you know, um, let me explain the difference. When you're trading a normal option, if you enter the option, typically the way it works, the closer to expiration you get, the cheaper it is, right? So what you pay as a premium initially may increase, and then it starts to decrease, okay? With the binaries, if you are long on the binary option, then if it starts at, let's say, 6 o'clock in the morning, you go into an option that expires at 7 o'clock. So you go into the option at 6:05. From 6:05 to 6:30, it kind of moves slow. All right. 6:30, you see it speed up just a little bit. Then by 6:40, it's starting to really move, and it's increasing in value if you are in the money. Okay. So that means if I'm long, and if I go in at, let's say, 50, then between 6 and 6:30, I might see $1 of profit if it is moving in my direction. Then at 6:30, I start seeing, okay, 2, 3, 4, it's speeding up. Understand? And then all of a sudden, you start seeing these jumps as long as you are in the money and it's moving in your direction. And I love that. It makes perfect sense to me. Now, if you're short the option, the exact opposite occurs. Okay? So, and that's what you want to happen. You want it to decrease in value, because if you're short the option, it starts at $100 and it goes down, which is exactly what you're wanting it to do. You want it at 0. And when it expires, it is at 0, as long as price closed below that level. There is no pre-market. That's what's so cool. There's no pre-market. Not really. It just, you start with option 6 to 8, and then you'll go 7 to 9, and then it's every 2 hours, okay? At 9:30, I'm already in the option that expires at 10 o'clock, Larry. Yep, binaries. No, you still have a commission, I believe, gig. Do you understand that now, Larry? Yeah, each side is 90 cents. Up to 10 contracts, okay? Once you go to 11 contracts, it's $9 per side. So you could trade 20 and your commission's still going to be $18. There's still settlement, and it's still going to be 90 cents on the settlement. Uh, 3 or 4 months ago, Humphrey, is when I started doing the research. Why am I skeptical of other brokers? I've already said that. If you're going to match my bonuses, you're not going to charge me a commission. How are you going to make your money? That's where I'm sorry, but the business mind takes over. Are you just doing this out of the goodness of your heart? Because you're not charging me a commission. In fact, you're even doubling what my deposit is. So if I deposit 5,000, then you're willing to give me an extra 10,000 to trade with you. But you're not charging me any type of fee whatsoever. Are you an angel sent from the heavens above, or is there something else going on there that I need to understand as a business owner? Because there's got to be a profit center unless you are, uh, what is it, a charity organization. And that's, I can't say because I've never opened up an account with them. I just said, look, if they're not charging me something, something's wrong. Right, there's no free lunch. But and this is why I did the research on the binaries, because I've seen the desperate traders, okay? They want to trade. And these people they don't have enough money for futures, but these people are offering them all of this money. They're going to jump at it without thinking logically. Because some traders are desperate, especially right now when they can't find jobs. Nadex charges 90 cents per side up to $9. Well, I've never opened an account with them, so I can't out and out say that. Yeah, I wouldn't. George, you'll love it. I'm just going to tell you right now, you're going to love it. If you do, tell them that I sent you. I don't get anything from Nadex, but I like for them to know that I sent people to them, because if any of my customers have problems, I can call them up and say, I sent you X number of customers and you're not treating them nicely. Yeah, Wolves of Wall Street. That's a good one, pal. And I'll tell you something else. When I was just looking at doing the demos, there were a couple of them that allowed me to open the demos, and then I got videos every day after that saying I made $50,000 in the binaries. And I think that's a little bit misleading, and they can do that because they're outside the U.S. But there were quite a few of them that, they said, put in your email and your name here and get a free demo, and I did that. And the next thing I know, they're calling me saying, okay, send us money now and we'll do the demo. And I said, well, that's not what your website said. Well, that's the way we work. I said, well, good, I don't need to it. I haven't even tried your services. You're not getting my money yet, especially on the brokerage side. And there's absolutely no way you can really do or see how their platform works unless you send them, whatever amount that they wanted. So I said, no, I ain't going to do it. No, there's, as far as I know, there's only one U.S. binary option broker, and that is Nadex. And they are governed by the CFTC. They make sure that they do not break any of the CTFC rules and regulations, and believe me, there's a lot of those. All right, any other questions, guys? Yeah, I didn't think Interactive Brokers did. I know most brokers do not do binaries yet. They're too new, to be honest. I think it seems like Nadex was 2007 that they started. No, Interactive Brokers is not offering binaries at this time. Most of your regular brokerage firms that offer options do not offer binaries. They may in the future. I think that we will have more in the future, but I like Nadex. They've been really, really good, at least to me. If I need to pick up the phone and call them, the customer service is right there. So, all right, guys, I did record the video presentation this morning, or the live trading room this morning. So if anybody has any questions, they can go back and watch it. I will have it posted later today. Tomorrow is the last day for anyone to sign up for this special rate on the Kickstart Your Trading and get the 25% off on packages as well. If you are an annual member, I will be posting it on both the annual member page and the forum over the weekend so y'all can sign up for it. It is included in the annual membership. Okay, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Gig, I will give you a call now. Anybody has any questions, by all means, please give me a call. I'll be more than happy to help you. Oh, well, thank you, Larry. Hello? Yes.